there was an evil entity in the house.
You are about to see real people.
I was terrified beyond belief.
Reliving horrifying paranormal encounters for the first time.
I truly felt it was like living in hell.
As their personal objects are possessed by spirits.
But that picture turned out to be very evil.
I buried this for nearly 30 years.
Be prepared to be afraid.
Story 8, take 1, marker.
We were looking for a house down around in the Taylor area, and we happened to drive by this particular house. And my husband says, now that's the house I'm gonna buy. And I thought, alrighty.
We had moved from upstate, and my parents had drove by the house and like fell in love with it, and it was for sale. I remember that. The yard was really big. I remember being very excited because, you know, we're gonna have our own rooms.
Gloria's husband sold the family business in order to buy the house.
It was our dream home. It's what we have always wanted. It was so big and, you know, with all the oak and the, you know, decorations. It was just gorgeous, you know.
You would expect a house to almost have a personality or feel welcoming, like, yay, we're home. But it was just open and cold, and do you know that feeling of you want to feel warm at home? It didn't feel like that.
Shortly after moving in, Gloria became aware that the house was not quite the dream home they had hoped for.
You know, I start noticing a lot of unusual stuff then, you know. There were so many little things that you pay no attention to, with doors slamming, pictures flying off the wall. I'd go outside to get the mail, which was out on the road, and I'd come back and my door would be locked. I would hear boxes being dragged across the floor in the basement. That was scary.
Clothes would just disappear. They're not gonna just disappear, but we would never find it again.
You know, get undressed at night, lay your clothes on the bed, and get up in the morning, you're gonna wear the same outfit or something, and it would be, a piece of it would be gone.
These small incidents proved to be the start of an escalating pattern.
And this one incident, when we were in the living room watching TV.
I remember very clearly that night watching Christmas cartoons in the living room. And
we had a large dog. And she was as calm as could be. And she just started barking and ran to the kitchen door.
All her hair was sticking up. She was growling, she was barking.
She just kept barking, and I could hear footsteps coming up the steps. So you knew it had to be something. I kept saying, I know someone's out there, don't come any closer.
And it seemed to go on forever. The barking and the growling and the noises was horrifying. And my mom got my dad's gun.
And they just got closer and closer.
And you could hear something like squishing, like your feet moving on the bottom step. Like you could hear it, and then you could hear it come up. You could hear steps, you could hear movement.
I seen the handle on the door turning. I was just petrified. I just said, I am going to shoot. And it just stopped.
And the police came, but they came around to the back door.
Guns drawn, opened the door, went up. There was nothing, nowhere. And I said, I'm telling you, I know what I heard. And the kids heard it, you know.
That was one of my worst experiences.
This is all real, and you can't escape this.
as one strange event happened after another, Gloria became more and more fearful.
I always felt I was being watched. I always thought there was somebody around. I started to get really afraid, and I just felt I was being watched all the time.
The family continued to experience paranormal phenomena in their home.
One of the scarier things that happened to me when I was a teenager was I was in my room doing my homework, and I had my back to my, to the door. And I heard the most god-awful voice say my name. It was deep and it was guttural, and I didn't know what to do. I froze because to get out of my bedroom, I knew there's my bedroom, there's the steps, but that thing was right outside my bedroom door, and I had no choice but to run through it because I was trapped in that room, and it was horrifying. It was literally like ice that I had to run. And I ran downstairs and I ran all the way through, and my mom was in the kitchen and she's like, what happened? And I was just shaking, and I told her what happened, what I heard, and she just said, calm down, it'll be okay. And she went back in the kitchen and she could hear it upstairs laughing. It was horrifying. It was just one of the most scary moments that I remember having in that house.
I told my husband, I just want to leave. It's getting like you could feel suffocating. The kids are fighting, stuff is being moved. But he said, you can't leave. We can't leave. It's your house. You can't just leave your house,
The family had no idea what was causing the terrifying events until some renovations unearthed a haunting picture. This discovery seemed to only make things worse.
There was a really big glass porch on this house, and so we were going to finally tear up the old linoleum that was on the porch and just have it the natural wood that was there. So we started tearing it up.
I just remember her finding this picture, and I remember hating it. It was horrible. These people it was an older couple, and they just looked so angry. And the feeling you got from the picture was just that they hated you.
Spirits initially like the idea of being present, whether it's to a painting that they've owned, something that they've liked. So these spirits will make a connection, and they'll stay with that photo, they'll stay with that object.
My husband really liked the picture. So we were into antiques and everything, So we got an old antique frame and framed it and put it in the dining room. And
I just remember the feeling from that picture literally was like people were staring at you, and not in a good way. They were angry. My cousin extremely hated it. He hated it. He never wanted to look at it. He never wanted to see it.
It flew off the wall and hit him right in the arm. And it would have been about 4 to 5 feet. So it didn't fall off the nail. It actually flew and hit my nephew in the shoulder.
In the basement, there was what they would call a root cellar. It had this really weird writing all over the walls. It was just so creepy in there.
And I told my husband, I really am worried about that root cellar over there, because the basement's big.
So he would close it, and it would open up. So he said, well, maybe it's crooked on the hinge or something. So he nailed it shut.
And then I said, I'm still scared down here. So we had an old car seat, like out of a Ford van or something. So he pushed that right up there real tight. He says, now no one's gonna move this.
The next, my mom go down there, do laundry, and it's standing open. At that point, you can't ignore it. There's something definitely going on in that house.
So then On that seat, I would always, if I seen any cardboard, you know, of a nice size that would be good for a back of a picture, I would stack it on that seat. So I had about maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 pieces of clear, different size cardboards. And I was down there looking one day to put on a picture, and lo and behold, there's a picture.
It was a picture of a woman, and then on another one, it was a picture of a baby's head. But I mean, it was obviously not a picture because it's in a weird angle. I mean, they're not pictures by any sense. It's a really odd manifestation of spirit.
These were all clear the day before, the night before, the months before.
The family became convinced that the picture itself was haunted and was the source of the problems in their home.
I can remember Beth saying, she says, living here is like being in hell. Living in this house is like hell. And the minute she said it, the whole house smelled like earth, just like must and earth.
The discovery of a haunted picture had escalated a series of paranormal events, terrifying the Koleshinsky family in their own home.
As a teenager, I truly felt it was like living in hell.
And the minute she said it, the whole house smelled like earth, just like must and earth.
I was thinking like a grave in my mind, you know, just that earthy, musty, nasty smell. It was everywhere, in the closets, in the bathrooms.
Just you could smell it. And I says, take it back, take it back, take it back, take it back. Whatever she says, oh, fine, you know. She says, I take it back, it's not like living in hell, you know, and immediately the smell went away and it was just a regular house again. This friend of mine said, why don't you come to ceramics class with me? It's a blessing I did, because whilst I was there, this one lady came forward and she said, she knows her friend is a really good psychic. She deals with cleansing houses. That's what she does if it's really bad. And she said, well, I'll ask her if she would be interested. And then I talked to her on the phone at great lengths and just told her some of the stuff, and she said, there's no way you can go through all this on the phone. She said, you definitely need help. She said, oh my God, the life you're living is horrible. She made arrangements to come to the house. And on that particular day when she come to the house, we thought we heard something in the basement, and the psychic wasn't there yet. And I told my nephew, go downstairs and see what's going on. So he went down to see. And he says, there's nothing down here. So I went down there with my daughter. Just like that, the entire basement filled with swirling and swirling smoke. I can't take anymore. I can't do this anymore.
The psychic arrived and immediately started work.
She came and cleansed the home.
Then shall two be in the field. The one shall be taken, and the other.
One of the things this psychic told me when she was there at the cleansing, that the woman that I always heard the dragging of the boxes, that was the previous owner She was an older woman, and she died out in our yard, out in the yard. We didn't know, but she was out in her garden, and she died. And she didn't want to leave her house. She had to tell her where to go to the other side, that she was no longer alive, and this was no longer her house.
When a house is being purified, the sage prominently is a cleansing of energy, a cleansing of that spirit's mind to let it know everything's okay. And that incense, that smell, that burn, helps to remove that negative energy out of the room in order for the spirit to move forward.
And at the end of the cleansing, that picture that was hanging there, that chalk picture, was in the dining room with us, which was black and white. The eyes on those people turned blue.
And they weren't angry anymore. They just looked like people, like old people, you know, in a picture.
And the whole house, after she blessed it and was getting ready to leave, you could just feel like a weight had been lifted. And the house just looked bigger and felt bigger. And our lives changed after that, for the better.
It's one thing for spirits to possess a creepy old photograph, but a high-performance automobile?
Story 7, roll 1.
I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I started working for Port Authority Police. And then after I retired, I moved to Homestead, Florida. I always wanted to live in a rural area, you know, peace and quiet, the whole thing. And I've always wanted to get an IROC. I saw it on Craigslist. I actually saw that somebody in Port Charlotte had it. This is like kismet. I gotta get my car. So I bought the car from him. The first thing I did was clean it. It was clean, but I said, you know what? It's not Henry clean. It makes you feel young, you know? It's like you feel like you felt when you were a kid.
Henry's life was perfect. He had the home of his dreams and his most beloved possession, his car. But everything was about to change.
The first time it happened, and I started like dozing off a little bit on and off. Then I started like hearing stuff outside. And at first I thought it might have been animals, but then I started like hearing like rattling, like something like, I thought somebody was breaking into the car. So I started getting panicky. A couple of times I went outside with my gun, but I didn't see anything.
This set off a chain of events for Henry.
I kept on like hearing noises. I said, you know what? I'm not even gonna pay attention to this because it's gonna eventually go away. Actually, first I thought it might have been somebody that is on my property, like. But then I said it can't be because there is this a large separation between each property. So it's like it's no way anybody could get into my property. So that started making me more worried.
I met Henry at a diner close to our area that we live at.
We just started talking, we clicked.
Keep on talking out in the parking lot. 3 hours later, we're still talking, and it took off from there.
I took her to my house, and I showed it to her. I was like really proud of my car. And I showed it to her, and she liked it. Because when she was young, she had a Camaro too, a white one.
I remember he had told me about it before I'd actually seen it. And even then, he was very excited about the car. He had said that he thought he was very lucky to have found it. He would always leave really, really early in the morning to the gym, like 6 a.m. And I would stay in the bedroom sleeping because I was like not gonna get up at 6. And a couple of times, I thought I would hear him coming into the house, but through the back. As a matter of fact, there's kind of those noises that kind of woke me up in a way. And I'm waiting, and I'm waiting.
Henry Pelliser had been experiencing mysterious incidents in his home, but had not yet shared them with his new girlfriend.
A couple of times, I thought I would hear him coming into the house, but through the back. As a matter of fact, there's kind of those noises that kind of woke me up in a way. And I'm waiting, nobody gets in. The whole yard is fenced, and the front, he's got a 6-foot concrete fence with iron gates. There's no access to the property unless somebody actually lets you into the property. The second time, that happened, about a week later, that's when I said, okay, this is really unusual.
I was embarrassed to tell her that I heard it before too. I didn't want her to think that she got together with a loon,
Then actually, once, about a month after we met, I went to his house, and it's very quiet, and I heard the dogs barking on this side of the house, which is adjacent to where the car was parked. And I look, and, like when you just woke up and you're like, I'm looking around, I don't see anything. And then I'm like, I'm thinking, did I just see something like move in the front? As you actually saw the outline of somebody in the front seat of the car.
Henry, come here. There's someone in your car. There's someone in your car.
And I said, are you seeing what I'm seeing? And I remember he looked at me like, yeah.
And then I panicked. I said, oh shit, somebody's stealing my car. So I started getting panicky. And there was somebody actually from the car, like staring at me, like pissed, looking dead at me. It was all in black and like really long, dark hair, staring at me like it wanted to rip me apart.
But it was one of those things that we both were looking at the same thing at the same time.
So it wasn't like my imagination or hers. So now it actually validated it.
I thought maybe somehow or other there's something paranormal tied into the experience.
It was the first time they'd witnessed something together, and things were only going to get worse.
He had told me how he had purchased a particular sound system for the car.
And took it to this place to have it all connected.
I remember it was on a Saturday that we did that. And then the next morning, he gets up and he goes in the car.
The wires were ripped out of the car.
And we said, okay, let's take it back. Let's take it back to this place. And
my mechanic, or the guy that I took it to, when he was connecting it, he told me that he felt like it was somebody behind him. And he would talk, like yell at the guy, thinking it was one of his guys, to get away. And he told me that he would look back, was nobody there. And he would like feel like somebody pushing him. And then after that, he has fixed it. He told us, Henry, you're on your own. There's something weird about this car.
People don't understand, how can spirit hang on to something so tightly when, they're just a breeze? Why can that happen? But it's an energy, it's a physical manifestation of energy that takes place.
So far, whatever was haunting Henry's car had mostly stayed in the car. But that was about to change.
it was gradually increasing from moving from the back into the house to distant noises, to thumps, to footsteps. It kept on ratcheting up. So it was kind of building up the intensity where, okay, this just cannot be ignored. And it's just a creepy feeling you get. It was basically, 9 months after he had bought the house, and there was nobody else in the house. I knew absolutely there was nobody else. Right next to the back door is a small bathroom. This small bathroom has the only window to the backyard and the carport right there. And I remember I'd fallen asleep, and I just got up, and the light was on in that hallway. So I go up, and I open the door.
Marlene and Henry had been dealing with an angry spirit haunting their car, but the entity had now started appearing to Marlene in the house.
I remember I'd fallen asleep, and I just got up, and the light was on in that hallway. So I go up, and I open the door. I couldn't get out that door fast enough. It was like one of those things that you could never forget it, even if you try.
She saw something right through the window, like looking at her, intimidating, like, and it looked exactly like what I saw before.
That window's so far off the ground because of the way that the house sits, that he would have to be at least 7.5 feet or 8 feet tall to actually his face to show through the window. This is not good. This is not good at all. And I think at that point was when I said, we cannot let this go because this is gonna get much worse if we ignore it. It's not gonna go away by itself, on the contrary.
The experience was so terrifying, Marlene stopped staying over at Henry's house.
I started like, not even watching TV in the couch anymore. I started going to my bedroom, and I said, I have a large flat screen in my bedroom, so I started watching TV with the door locked. I said, well, they come through that door, they're not gonna come out the same way. And I started like getting comfortable, and I went to put the remote control on the nightstand, and I looked, and there was somebody like staring at me over my bed. And part of my friend, I was freaking scared. And he was just like standing like right in front of me, like looking down, like intimidating. At first I thought it was me, either like, you know, like something like a horror movie that maybe your imagination. But I had my eyes open, and I saw it right in front of me, like you're standing right in front of me, right in front of me. And it wasn't like what you normally see, like people say that, no, there's like, you could see right through it. I said, no. That, you could see him.
That's, I think, when we decided to see if we could get some more information as to who this entity might be. So I got in touch with a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend, and I said, I want this person to come, like, I don't work, nobody that knows me.
A psych went over the house, and then he started, like, getting, like, this really weird feeling.
He went straight to the car, and he goes, there's something about this car. And I was like, you know, like, oh, yeah, well, it's an older car. And he, like, circled around it, and he basically, after a while, he says, you know, there's something really bad attached to this car.
Marlene and Henry at last had confirmation that the entity possessing their car was real.
He says, this is a very violent personality, because this guy in life was a horrible person. And now after death, he's the same or worse.
If that person is very belligerent, very mean, depending on what they've done in their life, they will keep that as part of who they are, as a power trip. They'll keep that part and inflict that on someone else because they have the opportunity to inflict more of what they used to do in this world. If they can do that in the physical world and leave and go into spirit and do the same thing, they're going to take advantage of it. They will take advantage of it, and they will make that person's life hell.
He told me that the car looked like it was stolen, and that guy who took it might have been chased by cops. It could have been like somebody from a motorcycle gang, and that he might have been killed in this particular car. And that he has like a vengeful hold more towards me because I'm an ex-cop.
This was just gonna get worse if we didn't do anything about it. He did the major blessing on the house and car, anointing of oils, prayers, sage, you name it.
Sometimes you say, you know what? This is a lot of BS. I saw it firsthand. This is freaking real.
Henry and Marlene were relieved that the car had been cleansed. But the departing spirit had one last trick up its sleeve. Henry and Marlene had cleansed the evil spirit that possessed their car. But the ordeal was not quite over yet.
And then sure enough, when I went to start the next day, it wouldn't start.
The car would never start again, and no mechanic would ever be able to fix it.
And I was like, are you kidding me? And now this car was starting just fine. And I said, are you kidding me? And he goes, it's dead. I'm nothing. I said, you sure? It's not working.
The next car I get is gonna be a 66 Lincoln with the suicide doors. And I'm gonna have it cleansed before I take it out of the dealership.
Henry Pelliser was tormented by a possessed car. When the Malone family faced demonic attack, a haunted motorbike would be the key to their salvation.
Story 24, take 1, marker.
It was March of 1992, and my husband and I purchased our first home. We were excited to be starting out on our own.
It was just a real nice place to have our kids grow up and raise kids and everything.
My friends kept teasing, saying, new house, new baby. We said no, and lo and behold, son number 3 came along. Dave's health was pretty good when we moved in. I would say about a year or two after, it just went from marginal to really bad.
Dave had struggled with asthma most of his life, but after the couple's 3rd son was born, Dave's health deteriorated fast.
And consequently, I was put on the list for a lung transplant, and I thought I was going to die.
But Dave's illness was not the only thing the family had to worry about. Their new home was holding secrets of its own.
My health started to go downhill. I started to have the dreams, and they became more intense.
It wasn't any dream. This was a recurring nightmare that Dave had as a child. Now it was haunting him as an adult.
I'm not one who scares easy. It made me fear for my life. And it came through the door. It has an odor that's horrible, that's beyond belief. And its breath would just make you want to choke and vomit. Its skin was all distorted like it was in a fire. It had pressed me down in the bed and tried to strangle me.
I woke up really quick. I had to stop it. I didn't know exactly what was going on, but I knew what I was seeing. He was yelling in his sleep. He was fighting in his sleep.
The demon was coming through from Dave's dreams into his reality. Their home was not a safe place anymore.
He was pressed into the bed. It looked like a body had laid on top of him and it just weighted him down into the bed.
Get up!
After that night, we both knew that something sinister was attacking him.
The family tried to live a normal home life, but they couldn't escape their unwanted visitor.
Then I started seeing things that made it crystal clear to me that there was something going on that was more than nightmares. I kind of felt like a snake. That was terror.
I have no idea how that's possible, but it happened. And if it was going to happen to somebody, I didn't want it to happen to my wife, and I didn't want it to happen to my children.
Dave got angry, and he decided he wasn't going to let this thing have power over him anymore, and he was going to fight it. When he went to sleep that night, I knew what was starting to happen.
Cindy heard her husband fighting upstairs. Dave had come face to face with his demon, and he wasn't backing down. He wanted his home back.
The thing on the other side of the door tended to do me harm. This thing had grabbed me.
So I go running up the steps.
Oh my God!
And I actually saw him go from being flat on our bed, and then he was airborne.
I'm dreaming all this. This shouldn't materialize into reality. I should wake up and I shouldn't have anything on me. It's a dream. Well, it wasn't.
Later that night, Dave woke with pain searing through his upper body.
I was bleeding like a stuck pig everywhere.
He had multiple scratches all over, and they were in threes. What did that to him?
Now there was physical evidence of a demonic presence in their home, and Cindy was terrified. But Dave fighting back had an unexpected result.
And it stopped. It stopped. There were no more physical attacks. The nightmare stopped.
When that person fights and wants to get out of there and wants to get rid of that and has that intention of getting out of that situation, that's when the spirit loses its power.
Dave's health, he seemed to stabilize.
I don't want to say that I won because I don't think there's such a thing as winning. I survived. But it wasn't the end, it was the beginning of another chapter that was not a good one.
The Malone family had successfully rid their home of an evil entity and were finally living a normal life.
But it wasn't the end, it was the beginning of another chapter that was not a good one.
In September of 2012, our middle son, Zach, passed away.
Zach died tragically in their home at the age of 21.
I always firmly believed that it was just merely an accident, that he was doing something that he shouldn't have done. But there was always a question out there, was he that unhappy that he would have taken his life?
While dealing with the loss of Zach, the entity that had lain dormant returned to the house, or so it seemed.
Dave came downstairs. He's always been the first one to get up. He starts the coffee. He walked into the kitchen.
All the doors were open. I mean, everything, the refrigerator, the oven, the broiler.
And obviously that's not a normal thing to walk into.
And it was almost like, come on, this can't be happening.
We think something, like our minds are starting to play tricks on us or something.
I was in the kitchen getting a bowl of cereal, and I went to the one cabinet on the left side of me, and I couldn't find a bowl big enough, so I went to a cabinet directly above me. I said, I don't know, I'm starting to go nuts here because this can't be happening. Oh, the breaking point for me was we came down one morning and all our dining room chairs were stacked on top of the table. Whether these things were connected to the entity from my past, I don't know.
There was something very sinister going on.
You know, even for a normal person, stacking them up like that took some effort. So if whatever this is has the power to do that, then what's it capable of?
I did some research, and it led me to a group that was called Light Seekers Paranormal Resolutions.
They call us, and we come in and try to help the family get their lives back to normal, move spirits on, cross human spirits over, and whatever we really need to do to give the family peace and quiet again in their home. Steve is one of my psychic mediums. Steve can see and talk to spirits. We knew right off the bat that something was definitely amiss here. We felt this deep desire to go over to this motorcycle.
My son Zachary's motorcycle, it's a Harley. It was his joy.
They didn't have any prior information as to, you know, as far as they knew, that could have been my motorcycle.
He was attracted to it. He wasn't sure exactly why at the time, but he said that once he got over to it, he said he had this feeling and emotions coming through him.
He kind of opened himself up to where Zachary kind of came to him, and that's when apparently Zachary had said to him to apologize to us about, you know, him doing what he did to leave us.
Steve sensed that Zach's spirit had locked on to his beloved motorbike to keep him attached to the family's home.
He started speaking, and the words that came out of his mouth were not his anymore. The words that came out of his mouth were Zach's.
Part of me was relieved in the fact that, you know, I knew all along that he didn't try to harm himself on purpose.
And the only reason that we weren't harmed any more than we already had been was because Zach was the protector of his friends and his family.
According to the psychic, the attacks on Dave had stopped because his dead son's spirit was protecting him and his family's home.
Didn't want him to have to go through that. I wanted that bad thing and the evil thing to leave so he could be in peace, you know?
He will comfort all your waste places, and he will make your wilderness like Eden, and your desert like the garden of the Lord.
And that's when we decided it's time to remove this thing, time to get it out of here.
Hearken unto me, my people, and give ear unto me, O my nation. Ye that seek the Lord, look unto the rock, whence ye are here.
The evil spirit that was here was gone.
After this entity has left, we had a cold blast of air come through.
It was very touching moment, and one that you could physically feel, not just emotionally.
When a spirit leaves the room, there'll be a sudden calmness. It's almost like there's no noise in the room. It's just deafening quiet.
And I felt a kiss on my cheek. And that was him. That was the most powerful thing I'd ever felt in my life. I mean, I know my son's with me. He'll always be with me. But to know that even on the other side, that he's still got us. I'm good.
Haven't had a thing happen to nothing. The only knocks on the door are, kids from the neighborhood knocking on the door, and that's it. That's the way we want to keep it.